strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal? If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in the
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that have been joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis program. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Wayne.
All right, welcome to the first roundtable of 2024. So happy to be here with this lovely panel. We have Crystal from Women Crushing It Wednesdays. We have devastating D-Style Boxing in the house as always. And we have the wonderful In the Ring with Christine, also from Women Crushing It Wednesdays. And Jeff, a.k.a. Hot Boxing Minute, is back with us. So we have a pretty good weekend coming up. We got Vergil Ortiz coming back. We got Ismael Barroso, and he's going to be taking on Ohara Davies. And this is an interesting fight because this is a fight of questions. It's a fight of what ifs, right? Can Ismael Barroso strike lightning in a bottle again? Because he was doing great against Rolly Romero, and he looked like he was on his way to possibly even winning that fight. And Ohara Davies, he's been up and down, so who knows? If you catch him on the wrong day, an upset is definitely possible here. So we're going to start with you, Crystal. Unpack this fight for us a little bit. Break this down. How do you see this playing out?
So we have a 31-year-old versus a 40-year-old. I think, you know, I hate to say age have anything to do with this one, because it really, truly depends on what we bring to the table. You're exactly right when you say we're not sure what Davies will see on, is it Saturday? It's Saturday, correct? Yeah, I'm not sure what he'll bring. You know, he have only one fight per year the last few years, and so the inactivity can play a part in this as well. We've seen that in the past. So I'm not sure Barosa, he bring a lot. And he don't go down easy. I don't care what no one say. He don't go down easy. We know that for sure as well. So, you know, I think this will be a rather interesting fight. I would like to see that Davies show us something and show that he still want to remain the contender. But I think it will be good. I think it will be very good.
So what do you think of this matchup between Davies and Barroso? Ryan, do you think that fight was a one-off with Barroso against Raleigh? Or do you think he can replicate that performance against Davies? Because as I said to Crystal, Davies has been up and down. You know, he's faced adversity before and didn't always respond well to it. Do you think Barroso could take him to that dark place again and maybe force him to not respond well?
You're referring to Barosa, the guy who fought Raleigh, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting fight. You know, I have Davis coming out with the win. I think that was a one-off with Raleigh, and I think partly the reason for that is, you know, Raleigh underestimated Barroso, in my opinion. He probably thought that he was just going to walk over the guy because he's so much older than him, but ended up being the complete opposite. And, you know, we saw that this god-awful stoppage, and, you know, Tony Weeks blocked me on Facebook after, you know, I made a SpongeBob joke out of it, but it was funny. It was funny. He probably didn't think it was funny, but, you know, it was an awful stoppage. But it's really a shame because I thought Barosa was winning the fight. He was actually landing punches in the exchange when the fight got stopped, which is one of the reasons why I thought it was so grotesque and awful. But that was probably his last chance of getting a belt. But yeah, I have Davis winning, but I don't think he's going to be able to stop Barroso. You know, maybe put him down once or twice, but it'll go the distance.
So most people looking at Ohara Davies and they're saying, well, this guy, he's definitely better than Rolly Romero. And with all due respect to him, is he really leaps and bounds above Rolly, though? Because every time he stepped up, against Catterall, against Taylor, he's come up short too. So I go back to that point. This is a fight of the what ifs, and maybe Baroso, being as old as he is, maybe I don't, how old is he? Like close to like 30s, 38
He's
years
40.
old. Is he 40? All right, so
Yeah.
40 years old. Is 40 the new 30?
Look, I actually thought he looked good in the Raleigh fight. I thought he was winning the fight. I thought he was hurting Raleigh. In that exchange, Raleigh wasn't even landing. That was the most bizarre part. The one that was landing was Barosa, right? The Tony Weeks wants to get mad at jokes. Well, what about the fighter you just screwed over of a world title at the age of 40, bro? How about that dude, right? He should be mad, right? I thought, and I think it's the worst stoppage I've ever seen. That's saying a lot because I've seen a lot of bad stoppage. That's the worst one I've ever seen. I think, as crazy as it sounds, I'm slightly favoring Ohara Davies, but I do think it's somewhat of a pick'em. I do. Like, I think this could be a banana skin. I think he could spoil the party. And at the very least, give the younger man a run for his money. He's going to make him earn that world title, I believe, if anything. Although I heard it's an interim title, so is Raleigh really still the champion? I mean, what the hell's going on? But whatever. But that's how I feel about it.
Nothing makes sense with the WBA.
So, Christine, Ismael Barroso is a plus 350, so he's almost a 4-1 underdog. Is he worth maybe just a little bit of a tickle here to put a little money on him? Can he upset the apple cart here? Because I'm kind of itching to put a little bit of money on this guy because I can
do it.
I feel something.
Do it.
I feel
Do
something
it.
here.
I feel it too, babe. I feel it too. Look, listen. So the Rolly fight was an absolute laughable event because it was stupid. The stoppage was stupid. We know that Davies, like you said before, once he gets against like top guys like Taylor and Catterall, he's done. To me, as I'm looking at him, all of his shots are very choreographed. Like, what's going to come. He jumps in with his shots. He drops his lead hand. And then you have this hungry, yes, he's older, so he has something to prove, especially after that Raleigh fight, Barroso, who is southpaw. He's strong. I mean, they have about the same as far as knockout ratio, and he's got something to prove. So honestly, I'm going for the old guy. I think that he's going to get his hand raised at the end of the night because I think that Davies is going to show us who he really is. I do.
So, Jeff, 2023 was the year of the upset. Can we start off 2024 with this fight being the first upset of 2024?
Man, first things first, justice for my man Apocalypto. And, Keith Idek said it best, check that man's passport because he might be Cuban. I don't really know, but the man can fight. So my guy Ismael Barroso is just a victim of boxing politics, and it's gut-wrenching. Because, he's probably, taking care of a whole village back home in Venezuela where he's from, and he should have got the nod, or he was likely on his way to a nod in that fight against the king of social media boxing, Rolly Romero, or at least the court jester of social media boxing. And he was up against the house, and Ohara Davies, each time he stepped up against who? Josh Taylor. He folded under the pressure. Some say he, the Q word, they said he quit. I'm not saying he did or he didn't. That's left up to the viewer to decide that one. And Jack Catterall, 2 southpaws. Ismael Barroso is a very, very strong, rugged pressure application southpaw. If you look at his wins, 24 of his wins, 22 are by means of knockout. That's almost a 92% knockout to win ratio compared to, I think, the 18 out of 25 wins that, your boy Ohara Davies does. I'm not a big fan of half-ass shoulder rolls, which is what Ohara Davies has. He, for the life of him, cannot get his head off that center line when it comes to southpaws throwing straight lefts or overhand lefts. So I have no doubt that this will be any different, but boxing politics are definitely going to be working against, Ismael Barroso, my guy Apocalypto. It's tragic. Golden Boy just signed him, and I understand why they signed Ohara Davies. Ohara Davies is a jewel in press conferences. He reminds me of like a UK version of Adrian Broner, but not nearly as talented. But that dude, if you get somebody opposite him, like say a Rolly Romero in a cross-promotional fight, oh, it's going to be fireworks. Even if the title belt isn't on the line in that kind of situation, he can talk trash with the best of them. That dude is so good at talking trash in press conferences. I was very impressed. He came into the press conference today. You can't do much with a guy like Ismael Barroso because he's a humble, temple-hungry fighter, but you saw a little bit of his gift of speech and his Spanish, speaking during the press conference. So I think under normal, even circumstances, I would give, the over-under is, 8.5 rounds? I think the mission for Ohara Davies is to get old man Barroso out into deep waters and take advantage of that 40-year-old cardio. And I think all things being said, I think the whole house is going to be against him. The institution is against Barroso again in this situation. So pending a surprise knockout, which isn't off the table, I'm going to have to go with my guy, Ohara Davies, by decision. And that sets up future potential matches for whatever the WBA intermediate handicap belt going on situation, tomfoolery there is with that. But yeah, I would love Barroso to pull off the upset. I do love an upset, but I just don't see it here.
Okay, so let's talk about another big fight coming up. Vergil Ortiz is returning, and obviously he's had his issues, the health issues with the rhabdomyolysis. And it was attributed to, according to him and people in his team, him trying to make weight, cutting weight, staying at 147 a little bit too long. And it seems as though they believe that the remedy for that issue is to move up to 154, but there are questions lingering. It's been a touchy subject, but is there still cause for concern here? I have to be honest, it's still in the back of my mind going into this fight. I know Fredrick Lawson should be the right opponent for him. I don't see any problems from a stylistic standpoint here, but in the back of my mind, I have to think about the health issues. And was it just training induced, or is this something that's predisposition type situation here? We'll go to you, Ryan. What do you think of this fight? And is there still cause for concern here?
I think there is still some cause for concern, but not for this fight. I think Ortiz will be good for this fight. From my understanding, he's been working with Victor Conti. Victor told me that himself, so I'm assuming that's good to say. Lawson has been knocked out. He's had 3 losses in his career, all by knockout. One was to Kevin Bizier, who we haven't heard for 7 years, but Bizier fought Kell Brook in a title defense in 2016. Well, it was Brook's title defense, but he got knocked out. Got knocked out by a journeyman named Juan Ruiz, and also got knocked out by Charles Hatley, who was knocked out by Jermell Charlo in 2017, which was one of the best knockouts of 2017, if I got the year correct. I don't see Ortiz facing any issues in this fight. And also, I learned about 30 minutes ago, it's actually a middleweight fight now. It's going to be a catch weight at 156 pounds. So I believe, from my understanding, they moved it up to 156 as a buffer, just in case, just to be safe. And I think that's the right decision, because I think Vergil's going to move up to 160 sooner rather than later. He's a big kid. But yeah, I think it's the right call. I expect this fight to go maybe 3-4 rounds max. Vergil might, carry him a little bit just to get some rounds under his belt. He knows that this guy's is completely out of his league, but he needs the rounds. He certainly needs the rounds. So expect a 3rd or 4th round knockout. And, we'll see what his next fight is. If he decides to stay at 154 or go up to 160. I've seen videos of him in training camp, and he looks pretty sharp. So hopefully he can keep it up.
So Ryan just made a great point, Jeff. I mean, this is at 156 now. This isn't even at 154. So 147 to 156, almost. It's 9 pounds, close to 10 pounds here. Seems like they're concerned already with this. There's some type of early worrying here about the weight, and I don't know, man. This is the right opponent, but again, is this the right weight? Is this the right time? I'm I'm still thinking about this in terms of I don't know, man. I'm a little bit skeptical about this comeback.
You know, it's fascinating for bettors. I'm not a gambling person, so I know bettors are. I don't know what's going on in their head, but the only person that can beat Vergil Ortiz in this situation is his body. So how does his body hold up? I was looking at the press images coming in all week from Las Vegas, just paying close attention to what his face looked like, and is his face looking puffy? Is he looking sucked up? And I thought he looked a little bit chunky for fight week. And then my friends that are there, boots on the ground, were saying, yeah, he's having some issues making weight. I thought it was going to be a catch weight, and somebody told me apparently in an interview a few weeks back, Robert Garcia hinted heavily towards a catch weight being the case, and that's what we ended up with here at 156 pounds. Everyone is very dismissive of Fredrick Lawson. What are the odds there? It's something insane. Plus 1100, Vergil Ortiz negative 2500. So heavily favoring Vergil Ortiz Jr. I don't know what he looks like at middleweight, because from the way I analyzed his style at welterweight, his strongest asset was his physicality. At 5'10" with his reach at welterweight, he was a problem. The bigger the weight classes he goes, the less that very vital tool of his physicality becomes one of the key components. Like Errol Spence. How's Errol Spence, if that's one of the key components to his style, which we saw Terrence Crawford take away all his physicality, what does he have left? So it's going to be interesting to see what Vergil Ortiz Jr. does going up to, 156 in this case. It looks like they're questioning whether or not they want to stay at junior middleweight or go up to full middleweight, but I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm very curious to see how his body responds, because if I was Fredrick Lawson, I would think his training camp would be focused on targeting Vergil's body for as much as they can, given Vergil's offensive output. But I'm going to favor Vergil to win this. I don't know. I guess I'm just going to go trust what the Vegas bettors are going for and go with Vergil by stoppage late. But I'm not confident in that at all, because Vergil might be shot for all we know. We just don't know until he gets in the ring and we start seeing him in action.
So I'm going to kind of go a different route with you, Christine, because again,
Okay.
when you have a fighter coming off with Vergil Ortiz, came off of a lot of health concerns. As a trainer, are you a little concerned pushing him in the camp? Because the feeling I'm kind of getting is, okay, we're gonna increase the weight so we don't have to work him that hard to get him down. In other words, is it in the back of the trainer's mind now, you think? And again, we're speaking hypotheticals here. We can't really climb into anyone's mind and know what's going on. But the training team, are they saying to themselves, we got to kind of ease him back into the training, and because of that, we want to give him a little bit of extra buffer so we don't have to work him as hard in the camp. What are your thoughts on that?
So one thing that Hot Boxing Minute said was the only thing against Vergil was his own body. I have to disagree, and I'm going to tell you why. Is because we talked about it so many times before, and it's the people that are around you, the yes men, and the thing is that I love my people. They're amazing, but we have a lot of machismo, in our culture. Yeah, you can do it. He can do it. We're gonna do it, and then we see what happens. Obviously, the boxing world is very small. You hear things. He has had his camps here, as well as California when he was there. And there's whispers and things that happen, and a lot of times these boxers trust people that feel they're very close to them, and they put their bodies through things that they shouldn't be going through. I knew that it was going to be a catch weight, even though he's moving up. I knew there's no way it's going to be 156 or heavier. There was going to be some renegotiation. He's going to win. He will stop this guy, Lawson, but he won't stay there. Virgil is he's a big kid. He's very talented. Um, you know, going to his body, if you can get inside to his body, which I don't think that Lawson's going to be able to do that, because Virgil hits very hard and he can work on the inside as far as mid range. But I think that the people around him, and unfortunately sometimes it's family or very close people, um, they have this machismo attitude, and they're not the ones in the ring. So I'm very heartbroken sometimes with some of our boxers because of things that they go through. But he would definitely win, and he would definitely stop Lawson because he's got it in him.
Okay, D-Style. It seems like this is kind of like an afterthought, with all due respect to Mr. Lawson, that he's probably not going to win on Saturday. But with that being said, the question is going to be: will this be a walkover for Vergil? Will this be some tough spots here? That's number one. And number two, where do you think he goes after this? 154, 160? You think he's big enough to carry 160, or do you think that's just they think the heavier they go with him, the better it's going to be for him physically?
I'm trying to understand the logic. To answer the first question, I don't think this is a threat to him unless he's shot, right? And it's like, well, where the hell is Vergil Ortiz? Unless that's the case, then no, right? But that's an if. We don't know, right? But I'm just questioning this methodology. Like it reminds me a lot, different situation. But do you remember when they were trying to work Canelo down to welterweight? Like he kept going to catch weight, 152, 150, and we're gonna try to get him to welterweight. It never happened. In fact, he missed weight against Baltimore. No, not Baltimore. Matthew Haddon, right? And the title was on the line, and they put it up anyway, even though he missed that catch weight that he imposed, or whatever, right? So you're working your way down to get to 154, right? But you're going to give yourself some cushion against a gimme. We're honest. But what? Like if you fight, let's say Tim Tszyu next, then you are going to make 154, even though you don't know without the cushion how you're going to look. Like something just seems odd to me about that. Like logically, don't you want to test 154 against this guy, and how your body's going to react against this guy, and not wait until you fight? Like if they throw you in there with anybody, I don't care if it's Errol Spence, Crawford, Lubin, Tim Tszyu, you name them. Okay, the Towering Inferno, Mendoza, Ramos, whoever they throw you in there, 154. Do you really want to try 154 without the cushion against one of those guys?
Good point.
I think that's weird to me. So that tells me either A, they're going to do another fighter at this level at 154 if he's successful, right, without the cushion, or they're going to actually throw him in there with a top fighter at 154, or he's going to go to 160. I see the same issues at 160 for him that Hot Minute touched on. His physicality is part of what makes him a great prize fighter, and I'm not sure he's not going to muscle around like a Janabek, for example. Right? Not saying he can't win that fight, but he's not going to win the way he wins fights right now. So I just want to remind people that this guy passed out in training camp the week of the fight. Okay, like he passed out. He took him to the ER. This wasn't just he had problems making weight. No, he had a more serious issue going on. So we were sure that fight was going to happen. It's been several fights now that Vergil Ortiz did not get to, right? So I think the fight's going to happen on Saturday. I'm not sure, though. You know what I mean? The Barosa fight against Ohara Davies might be the main event for all we know. We got to wait and see what happens. Let's see him at the scales, and then we'll go from there. But I personally, until I see otherwise, I'm concerned about his health. And I hope I'm wrong, because Vergil Ortiz is great for boxing. He's a great fighter, and I hope he's great, and I hope he has a great career. But those are my thoughts.
So, Crystal, is bigger always better for a fighter? Because 156, it's a couple pounds away from 160, and as was mentioned on the panel by Hot Boxing Minute, and I believe Ryan O'Hara touched upon it too. he won't be the big guy anymore at 160. He'll just be an average, probably be a small middleweight if he decides to go there. And now at 154, he'd probably just be an average size 154 pounder. He's not that big guy who can impose his will anymore, possibly. So, what's next for this man moving forward? Is the future bright for him going down this type of path?
Right. So I think everyone bring up valid point for certain. Um, he have the height and he have the reach advantage over Fredrick, Mr. Lawson, and this will be very advantageous for him in this fight to come back. I also agree with D style. Potentially, this fight don't happen on the Saturday, right? Uh, this is always the question now, and I think this is part of the reason we don't get great competition now from for Valdez from here forward because it's a risk to agree to a fight when a fighter is having, I think, more than just weight issue. I think this is a very serious situation he have, and I said before, the second time he don't be able to make the fight, he truly need to have a evaluation, entire physical and mental evaluation prior to going back to the ring. Wishfully, he have that, and we do get a fight on Saturday. But if I was a betting person, here's my thing. If I'm a betting person, I'm not betting on the Davis fight with the Barosa. I'm betting on this one. I'm betting on this one for the upset because the money is better, right? No one is believing in Mr. Lawson. And Mr. Lawson, to be fair, he coming from well Chicago by way of Ghana, right? This is what I understand. I think he want to bring, if he team do he research on Mr. Valdez, he will bring something to the table for us to watch on Saturday. I don't know at a catch weight that would be in his interest, in his best interest, like it is for Valdez. His best, this catch weight is now definitely in favor of Mr. Valdez. And I wish him well, but I expect him to go to 160. I don't think he'll stick around at 154, and I don't think he make much noise at 160, to be fair. I think he body have been through too much.
Okay. So let's move on to Jaron Ennis because it's being rumored that he's going to possibly be facing potentially Mario Barrios. And I know Boots Ennis, his resume and his level of opposition, people have been critical of that. And Mario Barrios is coming off a really big win against Yordenis Ugas. And so he put himself right back in the mix. I don't necessarily hate this fight because, again, Crawford and Spence, I think that rematch is all set, but we don't know what weight that's going to be at, right? And it seems like some of the tougher guys are going to be ending up at 154, but you still do have you got guys like Conor Benn there, which is a big money fight, right? You got Giovanni Santillon down there as well. But I think eventually Boots will go up to 154, but the question is when, right? So do you guys like this fight, Christine? Do you like this fight with Barrios?
I do.
There's nothing really else out there at the time, right?
Yeah, no, you know what? I do like this fight because I have been saying, like, when is he going to fight somebody? When is he going to fight somebody that's going to challenge him? I mean, he has the skill set, against the people the opposition that he's been faced against. But when are we going to see somebody test him? And, I like this new Mario Barrios. He's being trained now by Bob Santos, who trains, the Olympians in the DR. I think he needed this. He needed some versatility in his style, and I like the new, Barrios. I do. We saw him, beat Ugas, and it was nice. It was beautiful. So for me, like this is good. Like now we're gonna see who Boots Ennis is because I want to know. I want to know, is he the real deal or is he just somebody who's being manufactured? Yes, he has skill. Yes, he did. But we also know that matchmakers, can match well, and promoters can do what they want to do. So now I think we're going to see a true test. So I like this fight. I'm ready. I hope it happens.
So as Christine said, like I don't hate the fight. I think this is a good fight. But again, this isn't a Crawford. This isn't a Spence, right? This isn't a Keith Thurman, right? So we've seen what Barrios did against Keith Thurman, but again, he kind of looked revitalized. He kind of looked like he gathered himself against Ugas, and I just think Barrios on his best day is a very solid fighter. Could we argue that this may be Boots' toughest test to date?
Absolutely. I think so. I think this is a great fight. I think it's good for Ennis. He need to get back in the ring, as Christine say. I need to see some activity from him. The more time he go without activity, I worry about what will happen to him as a boxer. Will he lose perhaps some of the talent that he have, right? But I don't see too much talent yet. So I think Barrios will be a great start for him again, a step up, if you will. And I think Boots need to show me something, and I'm ready. I am ready and waiting for it. Yeah.
I have Boots stopping him in 9 rounds. I think Barrios is going to put up a good fight, but I don't think his face is going to hold up. Yeah. He's taken a lot of damage over the course of his career, and like Gabe Rosado, like in most of his fights, he got bled and cut up, and over the course of time, he was getting cut up, more easily. I feel like that's going to happen for Barrios, even though he has improved, under the tutelage of Bob Santos. Those type of things, they come back and bite you.
Now, Jeff, there are some decent names down at 147, but it seems like 154 is starting to become the money division a little bit, because you're going to have these guys from 147. You still got Timzo up there. We don't know what Charlo's going to do. How much longer do you think that Boots should stay at 147? Because again, outside of the Conor Ben fight, I don't really see a really big money fight for him. I mean, you got a Alexis Rocha fight that he lost to Santillon, so you got Santillon still in the mix. But again, is it worth the risk for the reward, right? Because he's an IBF titleist. He's going to probably end up having to make a mandatory at some point. But if he wants to make some real money, it seems like he'd have to go up to 154. Am I wrong?
It's possible. I think one of the main storylines of the last few years in boxing and its failure to the consumer, us as fans, is the welterweight division, a traditionally glorious glamour division in boxing. It's lately become the welter WAIT weight division because we were waiting for the cross-promotional politics to follow through with Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, and there's so much talent in that 147 division, and it's tragic that you got somebody like Boots Ennis, who just on paper and from the vision test looks immaculate, but we don't glean much information from a Castillo Clayton and Roy Monvilla win, although Roy Monvilla did look spectacular, gutting it out against Rashidi Ellis. If I was Boots, if my body could physically handle it, I would stay at 147 and just patiently wait for all those belts to get dropped, because he could easily, based on the vision test, it looks good, and it's kind of tragic. He's been aligned with the right people. He could have got a fight with any number of Cody Crowleys or Imantai Stanionis or even Jamal James or Errol Spence. I don't know. Throw in one of those guys from the roster, but he's been forced to do with what he's had to do. I love the cult of personality around him, because I think given the right opposition, you can build a fan base around somebody like Boots Ennis. Him and his dad work great together. Boots stays out of trouble. He's a gym rat. He doesn't rely on physicality to do what he does. He's big, he's athletic, and has ridiculous amounts of technique. He did the robot in that last fight that reminded me of like Emmanuel Augustus, and it was awesome. We just need to see him against some tough people. I think Mario Barrios is a solid dude. I think he's had great matchmaking up until this point in his career, but I believe that, Boots Ennis goes through him like a hot knife through butter, something along the lines of what Ryan was saying, 6 to 9 rounds tops, and he just gets pieced up. I don't know what to do with Boots, but keep him active, because if there's one thing we've learned in 2023 is that inactivity will destroy your career if you sit there and just, die on the vine like that. So if that fight goes down, I'm with it. Oddly enough, I think I heard Robert Guerrero mention Boots' name, which is really odd, and people keep mentioning, Keith, but Robert Guerrero's been more active than Keith. I'm just saying, but it would be a slaughter in that regard too. I just thought it was funny. If you want a big name, I mean, Robert the Ghost Guerrero has that old name recognition from being associated with Floyd, but yeah, I don't know what's next for Boots, but I'd watch the fight between him and Mario Barrios. Hopefully, not a pay-per-view though.
Yeah,
it'll probably be a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it'll probably be a
Everything
I'm
is
holding
now.
I'm holding back the vomit.
We'll see what happens with this Amazon deal for BBC. But D-Style, Will Boots get a lot of credit for beating a Mario Barrios, and it's with all due respect to Barrios, I mean, he's a solid guy. Don't get me wrong, and I think he's a very good fighter. But again, he's not the Terrence Crawford. He's not the Errol Spence. He's not a Tim Tszyu type opponent.
Right.
And these are the types of fights that Boots needs. He needs a breakthrough fight. And we know Eddie Hearn talked about possibly signing him. And even Conor Benn is the name. That's a money fight. What do you think, man? There's so much to unpack here.
So, like his peer, right? Vergil's moving up. So he's not a division anymore. We thought that was the future fight of welterweight, right? That's not going to happen. If it happens, it's not going to be a welterweight. So he's going to have to move up for that. I gotta be honest. I thought Roman Villa was a bigger challenge for Boots than Mario Barrios was going to be. Quite frank, I think it's going to wash Barrios. If you were to put Roman Villa and Barrios in the ring, I would pick Villa to beat Barrios. I think he would be too physical for him. I think he would overwhelm him. I think he would tear his face apart. He would just like he did to Rashidi Alice, right? So if people thought Barosa pulled up a great upset. Well, what about what Villa did against Alice? I mean, Alice is the same guy that beat Rocha. Now, that doesn't sound as impressive anymore after what happened to Rocha a couple months ago, but still, you know what I mean? I do feel that he could do what he wants, but unless some of these guys that won 40 move up, right? If they're not doing it anytime soon, he's got makeup time to do. He's lost a lot of time. So if there's nothing around, I believe he should move up, in my opinion. But I would stay around for maybe 2 more fights. And if there's nothing around, move up. That's what I would suggest.
So undisputed, you wouldn't put much stock in him going after that once these belts get vacated? Or do you think his body's going to eventually not be able to withstand waiting for that process to play out?
Look, he could stay for undisputed. I think Stanionis will be in the mix somehow. I think that's a great fight, by the way. But that's the fight to make, in my opinion. Stanionis versus Boots at 147. But I guess my issue is that this undisputed or not, like none of the other fights really intrigue me like the ones at 154 do. Just in my opinion. Now, if Josh Taylor moves up, he could do that fight. If like this guy said at 140 that if they move up, he could fight them, right? But I just don't. Even the guys moving up for 140, I just don't think they have the name power that the guys at 154 have. And that's just how I feel about it.
All right, so I was kind of surprised to see this on video. It's been on the social media sites, right? Manny Pacquiao was in Japan on a Rizen card, and he was in the ring, and he pretty much announced that he's going to be coming back to Japan. He's going to have an exhibition with none other than Floyd Mayweather. And call me crazy, but I don't know. I don't hate it. You know what I mean? Because I know the first fight wasn't great. But again, Mayweather slowed down a little bit. He's become a little bit more hittable in these exhibitions. Manny Pacquiao's still in pretty good shape. Again, I'm not saying these guys are ready to go out there and tackle the world and fight prime boxers, but these guys are at the same level, right? And maybe they could redeem themselves from what happened in the first fight. So I don't hate this exhibition. Jeff, am I crazy?
Nah, not at all. So just some like historical why I view exhibitions the way I do. Like in the past, when boxers retired, the industry chewed up, spit them out, and all they had left was like autograph signings at conventions. You know, they didn't have this avenue in the past. And I am all for any of these fighters that I grew up watching getting that exhibition bread. More power to them. I love Floyd. I love Uncle Manny. Obviously, I'm Filipino, so Uncle Manny's my dude. I would love to see an exhibition. I compartmentalize it. I'll keep it in the exhibition category. I know a lot of people don't like exhibitions, but guess what? They have been going on since day one in this sport. Not day one, but day one. Since like the late 1800s when they were first instituting the Queensberry rules, these dudes were doing like off-Broadway musicals and stuff, working exhibitions, doing fake fights. Like, this is not new. But if these fighters got a way to make money to do it, I'm all for watching Uncle Manny and Uncle Floyd get back in the ring. Let me relive these dreams, damn it, and leave my inner child alone.
So we've kind of seen this before, where you have two veterans past their prime and they get in the ring, and because the flaws are more evident now, they become more hittable. And when they're more hittable, the fights become more exciting sometimes, D-Style. Could the second fight be better than the first fight was, even though it's an exhibition?
It can be worse. So, like, look, I actually do think that the exhibition is going to be more exciting, as crazy as that sounds. They're going to get that rising bag. Get the bag. It is what it is. Look, Manny couldn't believe it, man. Manny was supposed to announce it. He looked over at the announcer like I'm going to fight. And the announcer's like, Mayweather Jr. Oh, I don't know if you wanted me to say that. He didn't even know if that was true or not, right? So I guess we don't know yet. But man, I'm gonna stay up late in the morning and watch this fight in Japan. Rizen, old ass Floyd with love handles and Manny Pacquiao.
I'm gonna watch it.
Whoa!
Like, you know what I mean? And then I saw that MMA dude. Look, that MMA dude was landing some good shots on Mayweather. That was Manny Pacquiao. Ooh, I'm just saying. Okay, I actually like Manny's chances, even though it's an exhibition. But even if it doesn't count, it's gonna count. That's all I want to say.
So, Crystal, are you gonna stay up or wake up early in the morning to watch this one?
Absolutely. I'm a nerd. Don't forget. I watched them all. Amateur all the way to the exhibition. I recall the last exhibition that Mr. Mayweather do a complete catastrophe. Kenny Bayless was in the ring and complete disaster.
That was awesome.
But please understand, we don't have the same Manny Pacquiao as we do in the first fight. We don't have the same Mayweather that we have in the first fight, and we know this. But part of it is in my head. I still have the video of the wife of Manny Pacquiao feeding to him after he lose that fight. That make me sad. The other thing is, I don't want to see Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson at the age of 50 ever again. Snoop Dogg was my highlight that night. So I'll take Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather at 40 years of age with the exhibition. Why not? Make a little money. This is the stuff that Jake Paul do in the beginning, and the folks be mad at him because he never in the boxing world. So bring back the old boxers. Let them put on a display. I will watch it. And many people who know their names will probably tune in as well.
So, Ryan, Floyd's going to be 47, and I think Manny Pacquiao's closing in on 45. At this point, you have to, even though they're both at the same age group and same possible level, we would assume, do you have to worry about the health of these guys getting in there at this age? Is it dangerous, you think? It's always dangerous, but is it even more dangerous now?
For them, not so much. They should be fine. I mean, especially if they have an exhibition. I'm picky. I want to see a real fight. I don't want to see I hate exhibition fights. That's just me. I'm kind of picky when it comes to that. But heck, if we're gonna do all these old man fights like we did a few years ago, why not get some of Jake LaMotta's past opponents? Oh yeah, I'm 95 years old, man. Yeah, I still got it. My shoulder. Yeah. Obviously, I like to exaggerate a little bit, but it'd be cool to see them in the ring, and I don't know, but it's like if Juan Manuel Marquez and Pacquiao get fight again, which is not going to happen. I want to see a real fight. I don't want to see an exhibition because the first 4 fights were legendary. What's the exhibition can only be worse, right? Because because I heard Marquez's knees aren't what they used to be, so. Yeah, as Totec just said, exhibition fights are worthless. They pretty much nailed it in the head.
Do you feel the same way about exhibitions, Christine? Do you think this should be a real fight? Would you be more excited about it if it was, or even are you excited about it regardless if it's an exhibition or not? Or do you care?
No. So, but I have to clarify. So, nothing wrong with love handles these style. Just putting it out there. Nothing wrong with that. But no, it's like so. Obviously, they don't need the money. They don't need the money. So this goes back to a previous conversation, having the yes men around you. So everyone around you is gonna be like, yeah, man, let's do it because they have their hands out. It's about the money. Who really wants to see it? There's a few, and I respect that, and it's fine. But I personally, I don't want to see that. It's time for the new generation. You had your time, and Manny is one of my all-time number one greats. That's my guy. Like you could not put me against Manny in any fight in his heyday. But I don't want to see this. I'm not gonna get up. I'm not gonna watch it. I don't care to see it. Like you had your time. And the people around you should say, you know what? You don't got to do this. You have nothing else to prove. You have done what you had to do. You have enough money. You can do what you need to do. But the thing is, a boxer is always going to feel like, man, I still got it. I can do that. Look at this guy. I could have beat him. I could beat him. And it's up to us, the people around him, to say, you know what? It's okay. You don't need to. You had your time. So it to me it's kind of sad because even though they're healthy, I think that they are going to be more prone to injuries than some of the younger guys.
Now, are we
Just my
sure
opinion.
they got money? Like, are you sure they got
I mean,
enough
we're
money?
not sure, but anyone I argue with, they're like, I'm like, they don't have, maybe they don't have money. Maybe that's why they're doing it. Oh no, they got money. So I'm like, do they? Or is it also because I've also known boxers, and we all do, that, oh, I still got it. Look at this guy. I could have beat him. So I think it's a little bit of ego, and maybe it's the finances too. But me as a fan, do I want to see it? I don't. I don't want to see my hero get put down again.
Do you think though, Christine, that it'll be one-sided one way or the other, or do you think it'll just kind of they'll both kind of just kind of play around with each other and
Yeah, they're gonna play around with each other. It's not gonna be one-sided, and
Yeah.
everybody's gonna get paid. They're gonna get paid. Their
All
handlers are
about
gonna
the
get
money.
paid.
Yeah,
It's
it's gonna be a lot
money.
of money.
It's
But also,
money.
has Floyd even confirmed this?
No,
We haven't
No.
we
I
haven't
don't think
heard
so.
Floyd, we haven't heard Floyd confirm it.
Yeah, that's
No.
the dangerous part because whenever something involves Floyd and he hasn't said anything, my first thought is it's not true. That
But
happens
he
like
also
almost
he
every
also
other
said
week.
he was fixing to announce the Spence Crawford fight. So come
Mhm.
on.
But here's another thing too, though, Ryan, because if something isn't true, he's the first one to come out and refute it too. He hasn't refuted it yet.
Because
That's another
it's
thing.
He's
Manny's.
still thinking about it.
Did you see how hesitant Manny was to say his name? He's like, "I'll be back," and I'll be like, you know what I mean? And the announcer's like, "Oh, Floyd Mayweather." Like, Manny didn't seem sure about it. That's I guess that's my pause about it.
And Manny was 160 pounds for his last exhibition.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Wow.
Eh.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
and I think that's the biggest he's ever weighed in his whole life. So that's something to keep in mind.
Manny's
and
been.
he's only like 5'5".
Yeah,
That's
5'6",
Yeah.
maybe, but close enough.
Christine's a big fan. We'll send him too much
Like
ceviche
five,
or
like
something.
5'5" and a
I
half.
love
You wanna get
him. I
technical.
loved him in his day. Like he was my guy,
Have you ever
But
sent him any ceviche? Have you ever sent him ceviche?
Whoa.
I mean, he can come get some. He can come get some.
What's up? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Whoa. Please.
That seems to be like for the wins.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we continue to see the aftermath of the Day of Reckoning play out. We've heard Deontay Wilder's interview. We've seen Eddie Hearn speak. We've seen Frank Warren speak, and it seems like they have another big card unfolding in March. And it looks like Joshua is definitely going to be on that card on March 9th. But the big question is who's going to be the headliner alongside him? And names have been thrown out there: Hergovich. We've heard Zhang. We've heard Ngannou. I don't think it's going to be Hergovich next. I think they're going to wait and see what happens with the IBF, as I talked about numerous times prior to this. And I think eventually, like probably Hergovich may be the second fight down the road when that belt does become vacant, where the fight will mean more for the vacant title. I don't think it's going to be Zhang, right? Because Zhang's coming off an injury, and he's probably going to want to have a comeback fight. I do think it's going to be Ngannou, though. Am I wrong? What do you think, D-Style?
I actually believe that it's going to end up being Wilder versus AJ. I just have this feeling. And if you've been hearing some of AJ's interviews, he's been saying, "Hey, man can always come back." And look at Dubois. Dubois came back and he won his next fight. He hasn't said, like Eddie Hearn has said the fight is dead for now, but AJ's saying something different, is what he's saying. Now it wouldn't be the first time. I remember Eric Morales got outboxed by Raheem before his second fight with Manny Pacquiao, or third fight. I forget which one it was. But they still went on with the Pacquiao fight, despite him getting clearly outboxed, right, in the fight prior. Like, they still went on with it because they thought, we could still sell it. Now, granted, this is before the social media era like today, so more people are probably ignorant to the fact that Morales is coming off a loss, but still. And it wouldn't be the first time AJ is fighting somebody that's coming off a loss. So he fought Franklin after Franklin lost. I mean, it kind of is what it is. And I just think Turkey Al-Sheikh, when he wants something, he's going to do it. And I just think he's like a kid at the candy store right now. And his playground, his toys are the heavyweight division right now. And to him, it's like, no, I want to see Wilder versus AJ, and I'm going to get it, damn it, and I'm going to pay you guys to do it. So whatever, you know what I mean? So I know a lot of people don't see it. I know a lot of people are like, that fight's dead. But this is the theater of the unexpected, and don't be shocked if they announce that it's going to be Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder in a grudge match. And how are they going to sell it? They're going to say, hey, styles make fights. They're going to say he's still a puncher. You can't count a puncher out. They'll show clips of Anthony Joshua getting hit with the right hand. They'll say, imagine if that was Wilder, and boom, you have a sold fight. It is what it is, right? Well, it didn't happen back-to-back. Anthony Ruiz lost to Parker, but then he went on to knock out Joshua. So there's different things they could say to help sell the fight. And another dark horse. I agree with you. Ngannou versus Joshua is probably the second most likely, in my opinion. But a third most likely, a dark horse, is a trilogy against Andy Ruiz. They might very well just do that trilogy fight.
So, Ryan, after all the momentum Ngannou has after that Fury fight, and seeing as how all the momentum that Wilder lost, how do you see this? I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to do the Wilder fight. There's always a way to spin things. We know how boxing works, but I don't know. I think the Ngannou fight, to me, would be the biggest fight. Am I wrong?
Oh, I don't think you're wrong. I think it would be one of the biggest fights just because of Ngannou's star power in the UFC, but also like AJ at this point in his career, he likes to be motivated by things. I don't think he would be. Sorry, there's like something on my hat here. I don't think he'd be that motivated to fight Ngannou. I think he's more motivated right now by rage and bad blood, and I think that bad blood with Wilder, that would be something that would motivate him to get back into the gym and work with Ben Davis. And he's like, all right, I feel alive again, because he in the last couple of years, his performances seem just kind of it looks like he's just going through the motions. And with Ben Davison, he was just a completely new fighter. So I feel like he's going to fight Wilder. I agree with D-Style on that. I know for sure it's not going to be Jarrell Miller. I heard he's accepting an internship with Rockstar Games for GTA 6 video game. But yeah, I just had to throw it out there.
Poor Jarrell Miller. Well, I mean, did it to himself, so I don't know. I don't know if you want to say poor Jarrell Miller, because he did do it to himself. And the way, you don't just walk into some place and strong arm somebody that you can take advantage of. I don't think anyone's a fan of that.
He just came off his biggest payday. He could have paid. He's like, wow, I got money. Here you go. And now what? Well, he's going to face
Well, here's the thing.
Fines, I'm sure.
Here's the thing. Like when you get your car repoed, even if you have the money, you still gotta. There's still a process you have to go through, and I'm suspecting maybe they explained that to him, and he didn't want to go through the process, and he lost patience, and I don't know. It's ridiculous, but
what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? There's nothing you can do really. Hope he finds himself. But Christine, you got two people on this panel that still wouldn't mind the Wilder fight. Would you want to see the Wilder fight over the Ngannou fight?
So, the thing is I agree with him for the first time ever. I agree with D-Style on what's probably going to happen next. And not necessarily that I want to see it, but you have these cult fanatics that are like all about Wilder. And, the first time he lost, there was something going on. The second time, he had a long time off. So people are going to pay for this fight with AJ and Wilder. So I think that should happen or will happen next. I really have no interest in Ngannou and AJ fight. I guess if I was more of a UFC, fan, that I would. But the fight that I would want to see after the Wilder fight would be Zhang, because I think Zhang is a very real threat. He boxes, he moves. He does not move like a heavyweight. And for me, as a boxing fan, that's the one that I'd want to see. But I do agree, like I said, for the first time with D-Style, that I think that the AJ and Wilder fight should happen next and will.
So Crystal,
and then he should retire, and then Wilder should retire after that.
Okay.
Just saying.
Do you think AJ would force him into retirement after the fight because of the performance?
I think that not only AJ, but the fans would. They're like, okay, you know what? Okay, one time, all right. Two times, shame on you. Three times, you gotta go.
Yeah, but what if AJ puts egg weights on his gloves? And that's the only reason he wins.
Got him out that way. Got him out there.
That's the only way he would have beat the bronze bomber. He had to cheat.
All right, so Crystal, I gotta confess, I have a curiosity factor about me with Ngannou, right? I want to see him again, and I just want to see if he's really that good, or if Fury was just off that night, or
Fury took off.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Again, you could be right. You could be right. But the curiosity in me just wants to see if Ngannou could put on another strong performance like that against another guy like AJ, another top heavyweight like AJ. Am I crazy for thinking that?
Absolutely not. And actually, I'm more on that side of the path rather than seeing a Wilder and AJ. Believe it or not, money, I don't care what anyone say. Wilder himself say, I don't know if I have it in me anymore. So if he don't know, no one can tell him he do.
Who does? Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, he done. I think Mr. Wilder is done. And I don't think it have anything to do with the money at this point. I think we will see AJ with Ngannou. That's who I think we will see in March. And I highly, highly do want to see Zhang. Meet that lad in person. He is a different lad, and I think he what Christine, I think she nailed it one time. She say he a person to be reckoned with, or something to that effect. But I do think Zhang, he will be very interesting, and I want to see him against Usyk, Ryan. I think that would be a great matchup, actually. I want to see these heavyweights get it on. I'm tired of waiting on them to make these fights. I don't care to see Andy Ruiz again, but that's just my personal opinion. Tyson Fury, if he don't choose to fight Mr. Usyk, move past him. We have to do something. We cannot wait on these fights forever. The time is against them. So let's go. I also want to see, we have some young lads in the heavyweight division starting to come up a little bit. Put them on the undercards, please, and let's start building them up. They need this attention, and they need this opportunity, if you will. Wilder, as far as I'm concerned, he say he done. So good riddance. You have a successful career, as successful as you possibly could have, but let him be. There's no reason to beg him to come back. That's silly to me.
And to reiterate, Joe, I don't think you're crazy for suggesting Ngannou, and some people don't know. I think he's from Cameroon, and I believe at one point in his life he was actually homeless in Paris, and his goal was actually to be a pro boxer. But the first place that would take him in was an MMA gym. So that's the only reason he went into MMA. Ended up winning a UFC title within a few years, but boxing has always been, his dream. So you add that it factor of a guy who's motivated. This is what he's wanted to do his entire life. Maybe he left something in the ring with Fury, and I don't know. Guess we'll see. If he's actually special.
Yeah, shout out to his trainer too, who shouted out Ngannou for that big. He saw his Wells Fargo bank and he said he dropped in tears after what he saw.
Crazy. So Jeff, Frank Warren said he's got another game changer coming. And last time he used that word game changer, we knew who came into the mix and who was part of that game changer. It was Ngannou. Is he the second time game changer here for Anthony Joshua?
The game changer is His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh of Saudi Arabia. That man's the game changer, and nothing is off the table when the pockets are that deep when it comes to them. I love seeing him in the picture with his two children, Eddie and Frank, behaving, holding hands with Daddy. That's amazing to get them two in a room together and smiling and shaking hands. Boy, it's amazing what money can do to repair, hurt feelings and broken egos. But I think Ryan said something earlier about, Anthony Joshua could fight a soda can and he'll pack 100,000 into a stadium, and I don't think there's anything off limits right now. I love the way that Anthony Joshua took time to rebuild with those 3 fights. I love what Joseph Parker did with those 4 fights. I wish we would go back to the days of where we would let fighters do 3, 4, 5 tune-up fights in a year before they take those big, heavy fights and those big, heavy assignments, because activity matters. The activity is what is ruining these fighters, and I think if you were to let Deontay Wilder get a couple of tune-up fights and kick a couple of cans, build up his confidence again, because I think he still needs to shake off some of the ayahuasca that got him on that peace talk, because it just wasn't a good look for him to be in, oh, I love you, brother. Well, no matter what happens, we good. Like, no, that's, whoa. And when you hear somebody talk about doubt if they have it or not, that's it. You don't got it. If you got any doubts about that, you don't step in that ring. Like, you got to know walking into that ring, whether you're a flyweight at 108 pounds or a heavyweight 250 plus, that you're going to obliterate the man right in front of you, or you don't got a chance. So I think if Deontay Wilder, because his cult is you know what I mean, bro, never underestimate fanatics. He could knock out a couple of 10 cans over the course of a year and build momentum up for a rematch with Anthony Joshua, going right back into it. I don't know if there's enough appetite for that. I think, shoot, you could stick Agat Kabayel off of that great Makhmudov win against Anthony Joshua in there, because they were talking about Kabayel going up in there against Tyson Fury not too long ago. But tons of fun matches. I love Zhang and his momentum. He's putting up NBA, NFL viewership numbers with his Chinese constituents out there mainland. I don't think they'll ever have a fight in the Bird Box, but clearly there's a huge appetite for Zhang amongst his people. I love the fact that he's basically a star out there. I don't know what's next for Anthony Joshua, but I would watch an Anthony Joshua Francis Ngannou fight, and maybe Ngannou is what's next for Frank Warren. But I think he has to okay it with his daddy, Turki Al-Sheikh.
Excellency, man.
What if AJ and Zhang fought in Shanghai? That would be cool.
Huge. I would love it. It would sell out that stadium so fast.
Or Macau, where the MGM is.
AJ's
anyone who's willing to travel, all over the world to bring boxing back to its glory days. I think it's AJ.
Look, I don't know if AJ's gonna.
He didn't have. I mean, he got knocked out when he made his U.S. debut, and he hasn't come back since. But I feel like that he could do that before he retires. I think
the guy that's going to do that is going to be Parker. They could do a fight in Beijing or wherever, like wherever in China, I don't know. Do the fight over there, and it could be Parker versus Zhang, and I think it's a good fight.
Yeah, you know it's funny if you're to kind of put that card together on March 9th, right? You have AJ versus Ngannou, you have Parker versus Zhang, and then you have like Daniel Dubois versus like I don't know, maybe a Jeet Caballel or something like that. That'd be a great card right there. Those are three pretty solid fights.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be interesting. All right, so let's get to the last topic, right? We're gonna have our New Year's wish list. This is a three-part question here, all right? Number one is what's the fight that you hope you get in 2024, right? And then the second question there is which fighter do you feel needs to step up in 2024? And the third and final question is who do you think will have the biggest comeback in 2024? And if you need me to repeat these three, which I'm going to do each and every time because this is a big topic here, we'll start with you, Christine.
So I guess the first thing that comes to mind for me is Canelo and Ramirez. I want to see that fight. That's something that's been on my mind. I dream about it. I want to see who the top dog is going to be. They both have different styles, different motivation, and I definitely want to see that fight. And I'm just going to add because it kind of like coincides with the person that needs to step up is for me the one that needs to step up is Boots Ennis. So my second fight of the year, which is totally fantasy, I dream about it, I think about it, would be Bud versus Boots. And the reason why I say that is I saw an interview where Bud was saying, I think Boots is a lot like me. He has a lot of my style and this and that. And Boots like, heck nah, we're not the same. We're like whatever, different. And I'm like, the disrespect. Like, I was raised, respect your elders. If somebody that has accomplished the things you want to accomplish compliments you and compares you to them, show some respect. So that's my little fantasy secret fight, that I would like to see, but definitely I want to see Canelo Benavidez. And then you said
comeback of the year.
Comeback of the year. You know what? I want to see Tio come back. I think he's going to be the comeback of the year. I think mentally we've seen him on social media, like speaking a little bit more rational, not as emotional. I think his personal life is getting back together. So I think he's going to be the comeback of the year for me.
So we'll go to you, Crystal. I'll repeat the questions. What is the one fight that you want to see most in 2024? Which fighter do you think needs to step it up in 2024? And who will have the biggest comeback in 2024?
So just to piggyback off of what Christine said, I think Tio have he come back here this past year in 23 when he beat Taylor, right? So anyway, just moving forward. So I wouldn't mind to have one rematch between Espinosa and Ramirez. That fight was electrical. I would love to see that fight again, even if it's on an undercard. I don't care. I would just love to see that because I think the lad would be able to win again. I think that was wonderful. So that's a one fight. And then if I'm being real, I really want to see a Shakur and a Haney. I want to put get the dust out of here because this Shakur and Haney, the folks is always hating on one or the either one of them. Put them in the ring together. Let's see what they can do, right? The step up fight. What one I really want to see aside from Boots, obviously, is Morrell. I really want to see David Morrell take a step up fight. I want to see where he stand, because he's been doing very well, but I just would like to see a bit of a step up in the competition for him to see where he will be after that step up. Clearly, I'll be watching for Abdullah Mason, Shushu Carrington, all of these younger lads as well. But biggest comeback of the year, I think Errol Spence, he have to have some sort of a comeback this year to bring the fans back into his arms and let them know that, listen, I'm okay. I want to, I want to continue my career as a boxer, and this is how we do it. Give us the pathway, put him back in the ring. I want him to have a comeback here. Of course, after he lose again to Bud, I don't see that happening. That result ending any other way. But I do want to see him come back and prove, to everyone he still have it in him. Whether that is a boots in his fight or up to 160, perhaps a Tim Tszyu fight that would be okay also. So
Isn't it crazy how that rematch clause was activated in August, and they still don't have a date yet for the rematch? Isn't that bizarre?
It is bizarre.
Do you guys think they're still really going to have that fight, or there may be a possibility that fight doesn't happen?
I think it happens.
Think it's still going to happen? Okay.
I do.
Okay. All right, Jeff, I'll repeat the questions to you. Which fight do you hope we get in 2024? Which fighter do you think needs to step it up in 2024? And who will have the biggest comeback in 2024?
No surprise here on the fight I want to see in 2024. Canelo versus David Benavidez. I think that's the fight boxing really, really wants. I'm pushing for it hard on my platform. On the other side of that token, I'm also really pushing hard for Tank to fight anybody with a pulse. Like I think there's a huge potential for Tank to be the next great American boxing superstar, but he needs to fight somebody like a Shakur, somebody like a Devin, someone like a Teofimo. And because of how heavy financial he is on the A side, it's going to be on him to take control from his handlers and say, I'm going to need to fight these guys. Otherwise, we're just going to get, a year filled with Isaac Cruz and Raul Valenzuela mismatches. And along the lines of like Boots, we know that Gervonta is immaculately talented. But just how talented is he? I think the whole point of the sport is just how good is he? Let's find out. Let's really test it. Let's get some big pay-per-view fights. I think if it's one thing boxing fans have shown is that we're kind of getting out of that whole era of a loss destroys you. If you put up a good fight and you entertain the fans, we're going to want to see you again. You just got to have faith that and trust the process for what it is. So those are my two dream things going on, scenarios for 2024. A fighter I feel should step up in competition. Oh, goodness. Quite a few fighters, actually. I would love to see. I was kind of happy with Diego Pacheco stepping up and fighting Caceres. I think where he's at in his career was a good step up. I want to see Xander Zayas do the same. Fight somebody of a similar caliber that was, kind of a former championship contender type of fighter. Because they're at that point where they're almost at the 20-fight mark. Of course, you mentioned, Shushu Carrington and them. I think they're still in their early kind of phases of their career. It's fun watching them watch people. And it's clear like Abdullah Mason and Shushu are the future. The one person I want to see just totally put up to the top of the top is Andy Cruz. Only his second pro fight and the evolution he made under Bozy Ennis against Giovanni Staffron was insane. I've never seen anything like that. And I want to see if that dude's the goods, because he went from looking like confused, trying to figure out how to sit down in his punches in his first pro fight against that kid from Tijuana that fought Devin Haney, and then he just looked like a mini Boots Ennis in that second fight, and it was the levels that he changed in just one pro fight was insane. And I think that Andy Cruz is a very much dark horse in that lightweight division, and he could be a major factor in the next year. What was the last question?
Who do you think will have the biggest comeback in 2024? And you know what? If you can't answer that, you could also kind of frame it, and we'll have a breakout year too. If it's
who do I think will have the best bounce back in 2024?
Yeah.
This one's going to be totally biased. One of them is Oscar Valdez. I would love to see Oscar Valdez just get some confidence under him. I believe that under the right coaching situation, and maybe it isn't with Eddie Reynoso at the moment. Maybe he needs to go back and talk to Manny Robles about increasing his volume and output. But when I look at the other people in that division, I see him in very competitive fights. Put him in there with a Lamont Rocher or Shaqy Foster, but you need the best version of Oscar Valdez, and that's on him. He's definitely a dedicated guy. He stays in the gym, And outside of him, I think Sonny Edwards easily can have a bounce back year. He could go down to 108 and he could fight Adrian Curiel easily. I mean, if he can cut down to that weight, or even at 112, because Bam Rodriguez is leaving that division, going back up. He could either pick up those belts, or he could easily fight Artem Dalakian or fight Julio Cesar Martinez.
Yeah.
So those would be my two picks for probably bounce back of 2024.
That's a good one, Sonny, because I think he can definitely. I don't think definitely, but I think he could beat Julio Cesar Martinez, he's a smaller guy compared to Bam, and he's not as quick as Bam. And yeah, I think that's a more suitable opponent for him. That's a great call, Jeff, with Bam. All right, Ryan, it's the fight you want to see in 2024. Who do you think needs to step it up, and who will have a resurgence in 2024?
All right, so I'm going to start with two fights that are tied, in my opinion. Canelo Benavidez and Bivol versus Beterbiev. Unless if Mauricio decides to get in the way again, because Bivol is Russian, but Beterbiev is also Russian, but apparently he's more Canadian because he lives in Montreal. But if Bivol decides to change his citizenship to North Korea, I guess he'll be fine in Suleiman's book. But yeah, Canelo Benavidez and the other fight. Those are the two fights I want to see. Who needs to step it up? It's a tie between Jaime Munguia and Ivan Ditchko, heavyweight prospect. Most people don't know Ivan, but he had two Olympic bronze medalists, two Olympic bronze medals in the Olympics. One of those fights was against Anthony Joshua, in fact, and most people thought that Ditchko won the fight. He's 33 now, 13-0, 12 knockouts, but in the last 2 years has been sort of inactive. He's talked about how he's not happy with his management, hasn't been able to get good fights, but he was in Tyson Fury's training camp for the third fight with Wilder and got him in shape. I'm hoping maybe he could sign with Bob Arum, Top Rank. They've got obviously Fury's with ESPN. Maybe they could make that fight down the line. So hopefully he can pick it up. And with Munguia, he went from fighting all of these essentially nobodies in 2022 to fighting almost nobody at all in 2023. I'd like to see, obviously he's fighting John Ryder, but I'd like to see him more active. I didn't think he looked that great against Derevyanchenko, which is unfortunate because Derevyanchenko is not a super middleweight. I mean, extremely small for the division, and he nearly won the fight. Wasn't exactly a great look in my opinion. I think Munguia is good for boxing when he fights. I cut him a break in 2022. I'm like, he's staying active, but when are we get to see him against a real test? And I don't even know if John Ryder is going to be that guy either. I think Ryder might win that fight, actually, in my opinion. And I think your last question was biggest comeback. I think Spence, if they match him properly. If they match him up properly, he can have a comeback. But if they throw him up against Crawford again, I'm hearing that they're looking at February. But yeah, I can see rain coming down on your camera lens there, Christine. But yeah, if not Spence, who else could make a good comeback? Oh, Vergil. If they can, if he can stay healthy, I think Vergil can make a decent comeback.
Was it rain though?
I'm not sure what that was. I saw your camera turn dark, and then I saw things flying.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have been fire. Like your argument stuff.
Okay, D-Style, we'll close it out with you. What's the fight that you want in 2024? Who needs to step it up, and who's going to have the comeback?
Look, Canelo Benavidez to me is the one. That's the big fight. It's a rivalry fight. It's a civil war of sense, and it has to happen, right? It has those Chavez De La Hoya vibes, so we got to do it. Or even to a certain degree, De La Hoya Vargas vibes. So like it's a fight I want to see. But another one I'll just throw in there is Teofimo Lopez against Tank. It likely won't happen, but I think that's a massive fight. I think that's a huge fight. Teofimo has the legitimacy that I believe, whether they admit it or not, Tank and his people are looking for. They're very defensive when people question their resume. And Tank has what Teo wants, right? He has that stardom. Well, he could gain it if he beats Tank. Come and take it. You know what I mean? That's a fight I personally would like to see, although I highly doubt that fight happens. Tank Davis needs to step up. Speaking of Tank. Tank Davis has fought one dude in the top 3 named Pedraza in his division in the last since ever. That's ridiculous, bro. You have his fan base pretending he's the actual WBA world champion, or he was all these years. I mean, this is crazy. Like, I'm tired of playing pretend. I'm tired of arguing with his fans whether he's a real world champion or not. And what's frustrating is that I know he's good. I know he could win a lot of these fights, but it doesn't mean anything if he doesn't actually go in the ring and fight these guys. And I'm a firm believer that steel sharpens steel. And if these other guys are fighting each other and you're not fighting them, I know you're aging them out or waiting to catch them at the right time. You may end up regretting it, very similar to how Spence regretted when he thought he ate out Terence Crawford, right? Like, you may very well end up regretting that. Again, I'm a firm believer that steel sharpens steel. Who will have the biggest comeback? I'm hopeful, although I don't know this for sure, but I'm hopeful that Vergil Ortiz will be the comeback fighter of the year. He's starting early, and if he's healthy, they'll keep him active, and that'll be a big comeback, especially after what he went through the last 2 years or so. So that'll be my comeback fight of the year.
So mine's got to be Canelo Benavidez, the fight that I want. I think everybody wants that fight at this point. I can't point to any other fight right now that's probably more highly anticipated than that one. Fighter that needs to step it up, I'm going to say Jared Big Baby Anderson. He needs to step it up, right? That's another one. And the comeback of the year could be Alexis Rocha, because if I want to throw something different than someone else didn't throw in there, because he still has the potential to make some noise, right? Alexis Rocha. So I'll leave it at that. And I want to just thank the panel. I want to thank everyone in the chat for joining us today. This was a very, very entertaining show, very fun show. And we will see you next week. Everyone have a good night and stay safe.
Peace out, everybody.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Peace out, everyone.